Hey guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks for our very special episode. We have our handsome correspondent, can I say that?
Yorkshire.
From Yorkshire, Horatio McSherry, here to break down the latest in Brexit, not just for you guys, but for me too. Because there's been a lot that's been going on and it's very confusing. So we're going to get right to that. But before we do, happy Sunday. And I hope you have had a wonderful day so far. So Horatio, can you tell us, give us maybe a refresher of what happened this week?
Well, this week it's been a disgraceful week in Parliament. On Tuesday, Oliver Letwin used Standing Order 24 for an emergency debate, and the Speaker allowed it. That allowed Hilary Benn to put forward his wrecking amendment to his wrecking bill, which made Boris Johnson unable to refuse to extend the deadline for Brexit.
Okay.
It was actually written into the bill that he couldn't refuse; he had to accept it.
So that was
within
the
2 working days.
first vote.
Yes.
Okay.
Which then sparked him to put a counter bill forward under the Fixed Term Parliament Act to call an election. Now, under the Fixed Term Parliament Act, you needed a 2/3 majority, and suddenly Labour, who had been calling for an election for 3 years, suddenly didn't fancy the election because Boris had taken a bit of a lead in the polls. So they lost that totally.
Wow. So what did
So
that... So that's a really big development there, because Labour has been running on a general election. And how did the country react to that vote?
Well, the media thought
Technical
it was
difficulties.
fantastic.
I'm not sure if it's on your end or our end, but Leah didn't have her internet plugged in.
I didn't.
It's on your end.
There we go.
Okay.
Let's see if that fixes it. You're a little garbled. It's not just, it's actually like garbling on my end, like the whole internet. So pause. All right.
Okay, so I did hear from your wonderful Piers Morgan, who voted Remain, say that this was an utter catastrophe, basically, for democracy and for the UK in general. Are there any other big names out there who think that this is kind of a whole debacle and sham for... You guys have democracy, so for democracy, for the people, I mean, how can the people trust any bill or anything that's voted on if they voted for something and all the politicians have decided that they're going to stop the vote? So amongst your group of people, what is the... I know, because Yorkshire tended to vote leave. In your neck of the woods, what are people saying? What do they think is going to happen? Do you think you're going to have a no deal? Do you think you'll be out by October 31st?
It's on our end. Are you receiving us okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Interesting. Oh, well, that might be why. Our Wi-Fi was unplugged because it got we had no internet. Literally, we were just going off of Wi-Fi. So, simple fix. Just wait it out.
We love to have technical difficulties. So while we're waiting for Horatio to be able to come back to us via the internet, I will tell you that Nigel Farage did put out in the papers this morning, I believe it was this morning. Was it this morning, Horatio? That he is ready for a pact with Boris Johnson. And in the pact, it would be if there are Brexiteer Tories running in a general election, they would not contest it. The Brexit Party, Nigel Farage's Brexit Party, would not contest it.
Right.
But if there are Labour... If it's Labour or if it's a Remain Tory, then the Brexit Party can put their candidate forward. And that would seem to be a no-brainer And I should actually bring up so you guys can kind of see the ad. He's ready. It's a picture of Nigel facing Boris. And he says, we'll be stronger than ever.
So do you think that they will do a coalition?
I'm trying to avoid it for ages just because of the numbers and because a lot of the diet parties won't like it. However,
go with it. Go with it. That's what I say. Go with it. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Honestly, I understand that. I guess from across the pond, I'm so excited to have Horatio here.
I think this is all fixed. And let's just kind of take a
recap.
Deep breath.
There were 2 votes this week. Horatio, go over those 2 votes real quick again, please.
The first vote was Hilary Benn's wrecking bill,
which
forced the Prime Minister in Section 3, subsection 3 and 4, to accept whatever extension the EU asked him to extend. Which forced him then to put forward a motion under the Fixed Term Parliament Act to call a general election. Now, under that law, he needed to get 2/3 majority. And because Labour suddenly decided they didn't want a general election, he couldn't get it. So he's now a Prime Minister who doesn't have a majority and can't call a general election.
Wow.
Get rid of it.
So is he a sitting? I mean, like, is he impotent as a Prime Minister? Is there anything he can do now?
He's like a ship with no engine. He can't do anything because he doesn't have a majority. Also because he removed the whip from 21 Tories who voted with Labour.
Right.
Not only does he not have a majority, he's now in a deficit of 21.
Wow.
But because Labour are behind in the polls, they won't allow him to call a general election.
Explain.
So he can't get any bills through.
Explain what removing the whip is to those 21 Tories who voted with Labour.
The whip means that you're under the control of the Tory party or whatever party that you're a member of. It's an old hunting term because obviously when Parliament started, they were all hunters and things like that. All it means is you are being steered by the whips. So if you have the whip removed, you are no longer part of that party.
Wow.
Well, you're not part of the parliamentary party. So they have to sit on the opposite benches because they're no longer Conservatives in Parliament.
Because we saw some guy cross the aisle last week
to join the Lib Dems, right?
Yes.
And
I think it was Edward Lee. I think so.
And he wasn't, from what I understand, he was like the one vote that gave the other side the majority.
No, not really. Him removing the whip from that 20, that got rid of his majority. But all the Cameroonians, they're all Lib Dems at heart anyway. So all he's doing is getting rid of the deadwood and making the Tory party more what it used to be under Thatcher. I think that's probably the way he's going.
Do you think that Boris has a plan? Do you think he's flying by the seat of his pants? Do you think he wakes up every day with a new plan?
I think his original plan was to get the backstop removed and try and resell May's deal with the backstop removed, which would have got through Parliament. But because Labour and the SNP and the Lib Dems are just so against leaving at all, they even voted against doing that. So now I think he's having to just play it as it comes. So I think his original plan is out of the water now, especially seeing as the EU have said that they won't take it out anyway. So this is why they had to force the vote against him, because that only left him with no deal. So they forced him not to do no deal. So there were 2 clauses in that bill. One of them said he had to accept the January 31st, 2020 deadline if the EU offered it. And if they didn't offer that, subsection 4 said any other date and time that the EU offered, which was open-ended, he had to accept. And not only that, in the addendum to the bill, they wrote the letter that he had, the acceptance letter that he had to send to the EU.
Oh my gosh.
They wrote the letter he has to send. So basically at this point, and did that pass the House of Lords as well?
Yes, what was going to happen was, because he was trying to prorogue Parliament, the Tory Lords were going to try and filibuster. because what they have to do, they have to have 2 votes for every amendment that they want to make. So they forwarded over 100 amendments to it, which meant that they were going to have to talk for 3 days, literally 3 days, 24 hours a day.
No.
Yes. So you have the odd sight of peers turning up with suitcases, things like that. They were obviously trying to make a point, but it came to a point where they knew eventually they weren't going to be able to stop it. It just get through. So Boris told them to just give over, and we'll move on from there.
This gets crazier and crazier by the minute.
So at this point, the bill that says the EU can extend again Brexit for as long as they want, and Boris has to accept whatever they offer, that bill is through.
Well, it's changed from last time because it was up to us to ask them for an extension. But what this did was tell the Prime Minister that he had to ask the EU what extension they wanted. And not only that, they can roll over the bill. So if they give it 3 months, he has to then go back again in 3 months and ask for another extension.
Get out.
And he also has to report every 28 days back to the House of Commons for them to have a vote on it again.
So so it seems to me like somebody had said that because Boris Johnson doesn't have a majority, then he can't be Prime Minister anymore. Is that true?
No, you can run a minority government. What would usually happen is that there'd be a vote of no confidence, or there would be, under the Fixed Term Parliament Act, there'd be a vote to call an election, because under the Fixed Term Parliament Act, which was put through in 2010, just to see us over, 2010 was when there was a Tory Lib Dem coalition after the recession. So they thought, instead of fighting elections every couple of years because no one can get a majority, we'll come with a Fixed Term Parliament Act, which means you can only call an election once every 5 years.
Okay.
And it's only supposed to be temporary for like 10 years or something like that. But what that's done now is take power away from the government to call an election on their own.
Okay.
So you've now got a government who is in a minority government, but because the opposition are behind in the polls, they won't agree to an election.
So what does the opposition foresee in the foreseeable future? I guess they think that because
delay. Always
until
delay.
they can get enough momentum to get a second referendum or revoke Article 50. Now, they can do it in Parliament, but they know if they do it in Parliament, they're finished.
Okay.
In the public, so that's why they can't revoke Article 50. They can revoke it, but they know they'll be absolutely crushed in an election. Okay. So they're just going for delay after delay, which is where this bill now comes in, because it's never ending.
Do you think that the Lib Dems and Labour have a long-term plan, or are they waking up every day just like, at least we're still in the EU today?
The problem is Jeremy Corbyn, because if it had still been Tony Blair, they'd have come together and they'd have gone for an election and they'd have clubbed together and got a majority with the SNP. But because Jeremy Corbyn is so hated by everyone, they refuse to have anything to do with him. So those two natural allies won't be allies while Jeremy Corbyn's there, which is why all the Blairites and Brownites have been trying to get rid of him.
So is there another possible Labour leader?
There's two. John McDonnell, who is a real dangerous person, not Jeremy Corbyn. Corbyn's an idiot. John McDonnell is dangerous because he will do what he says he's going to do. Jeremy Corbyn's just a lifelong protester. That's all he wants.
Okay.
But the other person is a Blairite. He's Tom Watson, and he's been repackaged as a nice, caring, lovely, cuddly guy. But actually, when you go back to his New Labour days, he's one of the most vicious and vindictive people that were in the New Labour government.
Okay.
So all the Blairites and Brownouts are trying to get Tom Watson in a position that he can just take over, and all the Corbynites and momentum are trying to get behind John McDonnell. So not even either side of the Labour Party could muster a majority in their own party.
So this is what's really confusing, because I thought that Jeremy Corbyn was for leave, and at least he was before, and that there were a lot of Labour voters who voted Leave. Where does that leave them?
Right. The problem is Corbyn and McDonnell can't get through any of their Marxist policies under the EU regulations.
Right.
So they need to come out. However, the majority in the Labour Party within Parliament are Blairites and Brownites who are staunch EU supporters who want to stay in at all costs. So they hold the power in the Labour Party. So he can't now say that he wants an election because he doesn't have the support of his own party.
Okay.
So, but that's good news, right?
It is good news, but it just means we keep going around in circles.
Yeah.
Okay, like a dog chasing his tail.
Yeah.
So what about this October 14 date that we keep hearing about?
It just gives them enough time to discuss getting the extension through. That's all.
But will they get the extension through?
Well, this is the thing, because in the last 2 days, Macron and Guy Verhofstadt have said that they won't approve an extension because we haven't put, like they said last time, nothing's changed.
Right.
So what are you having an extension for? So
Right.
again, by a different default, we might end up with no deal because the EU have just had tough enough.
But would they
But
really,
here's
though?
the thing, because the EU said that the last time, and then at the
And then they
very
went
last
ahead and-
minute, they're like, well, let's do October 31st.
I think it's changed a little bit now. I think now Boris is in and they can't get rid of him, and they haven't got rid of him. I think they're now getting to the end of the tether, and they haven't got enough time. They've not got enough patience to play with because they need to move on in their project.
Okay.
But with us dragging them down, they can't do that. So they're in a bit of a quandary. They need our money,
Right.
but they also want shut of us as well.
So, and that's another part of this game. So, Nigel Farage's Brexit party is the largest party in the EU, isn't it?
Correct.
And they hold some sway in voting, right?
Not really.
No, not really. Can they put a wrench in the EU spoke at all?
No,
while they're there?
They're the largest single party, but they don't have a majority or nowhere near a majority. So they don't. It doesn't really matter.
Okay.
But they can't. So is there anything they can do to make the EU? From what I would think that the EU wouldn't want these staunch Brexiteers roaming their halls every day.
Well, they've already thrown them out of the EU offices. They've moved into a building down the road, so they're not actually in the EU.
But
Parliament
why?
building.
Really?
Were they
What?
given a reason?
What?
They just said they need the space, so they've moved some MEPs into a new building
Some.
down the road.
Oh my gosh. That's great.
In a building down the road.
Oh my goodness.
Well, you know.
Okay, so
They
here's
play,
my...
they play hardball. You have to hand it to... See, and this is... The same thing happens here in the United States. The people on the left, they play hardball. They play to win. And they don't care who they run over. And they don't care who they offend. The problem with, like, right-leaning people, conservative-leaning people, is they're not tough. They don't have a backbone. I mean, look what's happened in the United States as our very own president had a coup against him for 2 years, and our Republican senators and congressmen literally sat on their hands. Okay, you hand it to the left. They rally around their idiots. They rally around their weakest people. They rally around the most corrupt people. And they stick together. It's an amazing thing, and that happens in the EU. You have to hand it to them that they're tough as nails. They're tough.
It's animal tribalism, and they just end up eating themselves. I mean, like you look at the other week. Did you see the story about Caroline Lucas having an all-female government?
No, tell me about it.
She offered a cross-party parliamentary party to run Parliament instead of the Conservatives, all female. So she picked an all female cabinet, put it forward, thinking this would be absolutely brilliant. All female, all singing, all dancing. The left would love it. However, they were all white, middle aged. She got absolutely crucified for it.
Uh-oh. Well, that didn't work out so well.
Oops.
If you're gonna play the identity politics card, you do have to.
You
be
have
careful.
to pick. It needs to be a rainbow.
Yeah, you have to be careful because you have to, and you certainly would have to have a transgender in there. It wouldn't work very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she ended up groveling on her knees. And even though she's kind of the parliamentary leader of the woke.
Oh.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah. I have to say they do happen to go after the wokest. the wokest wokes. Okay, so where does it leave? What's the when you guys are sitting around the pub and you're saying, okay, so
wait, we're gonna have to do the whole thing again.
Okay, why?
Well, because our speaker randomly goes to sleep.
Okay.
And when it does, I'm gonna have to redo the whole.
Well, can I speak?
You can speak.
Okay. So when you're hanging around and you're talking about, do you guys even talk about Brexit? And if you do, what is the idea even between staunch Remainers and staunch Leavers? Where do they think this is going to end up? What's the sentiment amongst the common folk of what's going on and what's happening, and where you're going to end up, let's say, a year from now?
It doesn't get spoken about across the divide. I mean, my best friend, he's a Remainer, and we just don't talk about it.
Okay.
It's not worth it. Nobody talks about it. Remainers talk to Remainers, Leavers talk to Leavers.
But how do you know? You don't wear a sticker.
You can tell. It's woven into every sentence that people utter.
Really?
Okay. So how can you tell a Leave versus a Remainer? Can you just, like, if you randomly meet a person, can you tell?
It's a bit like gaydar, I suppose.
That's what I was gonna say. It is a bit like the gaydar, and I think in all honesty, we experience that too, though, because the Trump support has become. Yeah. I mean, you can smell a Trump supporter. I mean, they may be a closet Trump supporter, but you really can. So I get what you're saying. I understand totally what you're saying. So here's the question. Without a general election, we can't have a coalition because there aren't very many Brexit party people in Parliament right now.
There's not a majority, right? Of
No,
Brexiteers.
it's a massive majority for Remain, which is why we're in this position. Well, that and that the Speaker's utterly corrupt.
The Speaker, John Bercow?
Yeah, I mean, he's just doing away with conventions left, right and centre. So you look at Hillary Ben's bill. He made the point that it doesn't need a monetary motion, which it obviously does because it involves finances, and it doesn't need the royal assent either.
Huh.
So he's just thrown convention away. Now, he is right that it isn't required. However, over hundreds of years, it's a convention. But he's chucking them away. But what he's also doing is invoking when he needs to.
Okay. So what you're saying is John Bercow is such a staunch Remainer that he is using his position to maneuver all Remain, and he's not in any way neutral.
Correct, which is why they're going to go after him in the next election. It's convention that because the Speaker doesn't get involved in debates and he's supposed to be apolitical. Supposed to be. He obviously isn't. He's from one side or the other. But because he's apolitical, he runs unopposed in every election.
Ah.
And that's the convention. But because he's upset so many people, the Conservatives are going to run someone against him, and the Brexit Party are going to run someone against him. So that's one of the places where they need to come up with a deal, because he'll just come through the middle if they take each other out.
Oh.
Really?
Well, and then that's just sad. It's just sad because he is eloquently punny and hilarious, and too bad he works for the other team.
Punny doesn't get you policy.
I know, but it makes it interesting. It's an otherwise boring parliamentary session.
Absolute weasel.
He's an absolute weasel. Well,
I think he missed his calling, though, because I think he should have just been a stand-up comedian.
Yeah, that's true.
And avoided all of this whole... So I think, though, he kind of, in my opinion, from the outside looking in, whenever I watch him, I feel like this guy's just an idiot. But from what you're saying is he's hiding his smarts. He's stealth and...
Well, he's incredibly
playing the
intelligent.
clown.
You can tell. He's
He's
incredibly
a bit like Peter
intelligent.
Mandelson. He's a master of the dark arts behind the scenes. He knows which strings to pull and where all the bodies are buried.
Does he
like
really? He doesn't strike me as the kind. Like, calm yourself. You know, you do well to take a pill or something. I mean, he has this, like, everything that he says, he thinks he's so funny.
I hope if whoever they get in is
So let me ask you this, though. You had sent me, well, you told me to watch Reese Mogg giving him a dressing down, but I never got a chance to see it. Do you want to explain?
It was just that he stood up to him in Parliament, which never usually happens. You've always got to try and keep the Speaker on side. But Reese Mogg and Peter Bone just went after him after he'd made a couple of rulings, and he got quite upset about that, which were quite funny.
I did watch his rebuttal to it, like it's standing up for himself, you know, talking about how he's completely unbiased and everything that he does, he's following, you know, exactly how he's supposed to, and you could tell that his feathers were ruffled, and he was pretty upset. Yeah,
he's the most supercilious person there's ever been. I mean, if you look at some of the other speakers on YouTube and watch how they carried themselves and how they spoke, and then watch Burko, he's an absolute clown.
Okay.
That's what he is. He's a performer.
Okay.
And you've got to realise as well, he's a Tory. Well, he's a Tory, but he only got voted into Speaker by Labour and Lib Dems.
Interesting.
All the Tories voted against him.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay.
Which is why the Lib Dems and Labour won't run against him in the election, because he's actually on their side.
Okay. I get it. So in a general election, does the entire country vote on the Speaker?
No, it's by constituency. So in his constituency, it's traditional that no one will run against him.
Okay. Interesting.
But because he's broken so many conventions, that's why they are going to break convention.
Oh, okay. Very interesting.
So let me ask you if you can just, you know, this would be our commercial break for the day. You're not going to be able to see this, but maybe you can talk to them about this beautiful, they can't, hang on. Wait, no, they're seeing it. You're not seeing it. I have up the picture of Reese Mogg totally reclining with his eyes closed.
Are you going to show them some of these spoof ones?
On the bench. I can, yes.
Is that a real picture?
That's a real picture.
Yeah.
Tell them what happened.
Why is he laying down?
Well, he's laying down because he's listening to lots of other speakers, and he always reclines like that, even when he wasn't on the front bench. But what you can't see from there is that in the top of those seats there are speakers. So he's actually leaning back and listening to the speaker.
Okay.
And I don't mean John Burkhardt, I mean the actual audio speaker.
Right, okay.
So I'm trying to pull up some of the spoof ones. They weren't really wanting to, okay, here's one. Let's see, let me open this in a new tab. This is the Simpson one. Oh, for crying out loud. There it is. Close that. Hello, here we go. All right. Now I want to find the one that you had of him on the float out in the ocean. Yeah, that was just... So what you're saying is he had every reason to be...
Frustrated? Or...
No, reclining and just like listening, and I mean, it wasn't like...
Yeah, he's not lounging. I mean, it looks like he's lounging, but he's actually got his ear to a speaker.
Right, exactly. I'm having trouble finding that one, and I'm not going to pull up your Facebook, so. All right, they get the idea, but still, I thought that was really hilarious.
So where is Reese Mogg in all of this? I know that he as a staunch Brexiteer, and he put his full weight behind Boris. Does he have any plan? Does anybody have any plan besides Nigel and his, you know, the only plan here is like Nigel and a general election. Like there's no plan. Nobody has a plan.
Well, he's now leader of the House, so it's his responsibility to make the timetable going forward and what business is discussed in the House. But obviously, seeing as they don't have a majority, it doesn't really matter what they put forward. It's always going to get voted down.
Okay.
So he's kind of, I think he's probably working away in the background on the legal issue of the Ben bill.
Yeah.
And he's also been the face of the government as well, because he's quite popular outside SW1. So I think his job at the minute is just to be the focal point and someone to bring a bit of humour to everything.
Okay, so
but obviously.
I'm still a little bit confused, and forgive me with all the technical stuff. I really am paying attention here. But, so we now have, to recap, we have Boris and a minority government. We've got this ridiculous EU straitjacket of a bill that has been passed. Boris can't call for a general election, even though that's what we were all kind of hoping for as like a last-ditch effort, because that's what he had. The last thing I heard out of Boris when I was watching was that that's what he was going to try to put forward, was a general election. Now he can't. So what happens going into October 31st? I mean, are we still waiting for pieces to fall or come into play?
Well, they are going to put forward another election bill on Monday or Tuesday, I think.
They are.
But I think, yeah, well, the rest of Parliament wouldn't countenance an election without the Ben bill passing. But now the Ben bill has passed, they're going to try and do it again. But I think because they've already said that they're going to try and find a way around it, that they're going to vote against an election again anyway. So we're in limbo. We can't do anything until actually Boris decides, is he going to ignore it? Is it legal to ignore it? Because it could be. That's what they're doing at the minute. They're looking at how legal it is, because it's such a badly drafted document.
Okay.
And because it doesn't need the monetary resolution or royal prerogative, they're seeing how it'd stand up in court if someone challenged them if they ignored it.
I did read somewhere about it going before a Supreme Court.
Well, it could end up there. I mean, they've already had 2 challenges this week to what was it against? It was against prorogue in Parliament. Okay. And the government have won both of those. But they do know if they do ignore it, it's going to end up in the High Court.
Okay. So
how long does that take? I mean, listen, I'm looking at Halloween. We're out of there. Like, we're gone. I mean, it's down to the wire. We have like 2 months here.
Well, that's what the Remainers are trying to do. They're trying to just string it out as long as possible, so we, by default, go over the 31st and have to have an extension. But it all comes down to how the technicalities work out. Is it legal for him to say, no, I'm not going to do that? If it's illegal for him to do that, can he then go to the EU, put it forward, ask for an extension, and then veto it? So veto his own proposals, because it needs all 27 members to agree it.
Oh, wow.
The power of the veto. See, now this is like a chess game.
It is, but obviously now that's obviously an option. The EU will try and counter that somehow.
Yes, because they're tricky.
They are tricky.
Is
it really sneaky. All about the money for them?
Yeah, it's all about the money. The second biggest contributor next to Germany.
Yeah, not so much the control, just the money.
No, they want shut of us, but they want us to keep paying the money. their ideal situation will be we left, but carried on paying the money.
Wow. So let's switch gears a little bit here to the scare stories are still out there that if you did leave with no deal, there'd be no medicine.
You're going to get STDs, no sandwiches.
Children die. As of yesterday, children are going to die because we can't be part of trials.
Oh my gosh. Wow. And that's, they're desperate when they start pulling out the kids are going to die tricks.
So from what I understand though, the port at Calais, or not the port, but the border at Calais, the French have said we're going to be just fine. But the British say you're not going to be fine.
Everyone away from the top politicians are just working and getting on with it. But if the Calais side have said they're not going to change anything, we've said on our side we're not going to change anything. If by some accident they do block it, it's just say the EU say they have to.
Okay.
Then we've already got the backup plan of using Zeebrugge and Rotterdam and places like that. I mean, they're not that far away. You're probably better up bringing up a map to show how close everywhere is. So even if they do start blocking things and there's a backup down at Dover, people are already looking at second and third options to go from Hull and places like that over to Zeebrugge and Rotterdam. So it's not going to happen.
Well, they've had an extra, over half a year to figure it out. You would think that they would have things in place for a no deal since you were supposed to be out in March.
It's just whinging. When they say, oh, this is going to be a problem, and then someone comes back, well, we've got the answer to that is this. They go, so you've been thinking about it, so it must be true then. And then if they say, well, no, it's not going to be a problem, they say, you should be planning, and you aren't.
Is it?
What map am I looking up?
Just a general map of Europe, which has got
Britain. You got a general map of Europe because
Britain, France, Belgium.
Great Britain is an island, so you do have that underground tunnel, which is fun. Which I will never use because I'm terrified of the idea of water crashing down and drowning me.
Is this what you want?
It's helpful, but that doesn't necessarily have all the cities that you're looking at. If
you just look at where Calais is down at the bottom right, and then if you look up into the middle of the country, how close they are to the Netherlands and Belgium, it's the same distance really.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So you could go through France, you could go through Belgium, you could go through the Netherlands, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean it's only hours drive. That's all.
So you only have the one underground tunnel, right?
You're obsessed with the tunnel.
Well, there's one each way.
Right, but everything else is by boat, right?
Yeah.
Coming and going. That was my question.
Yeah. There's no tunnel to Zeebrugge or Rotterdam.
Okay, that was my question. So everything else is
the ferries,
by boat.
roll
the ferries. You rely on the ferries.
Gotcha. Your sound's gone again. I can barely hear you.
Okay, hang on. I know the speaker. I don't know how to make it not go to sleep.
You're the speaker of my house. Oh, did we lose him?
Nope, he's still there. It's a good time for a commercial break.
Well, what we were going to cover today, and maybe Horatio can weigh in on this since it's over on his side of the pond, was a Swedish journalist. Did you hear about this? Came out and said that to save the planet and for climate change, we should get rid of the taboo of cannibalism.
Yes. And
start eating dead people.
People that have died. We're not talking about killing people. Like just people that have passed.
And this journalist, I don't have her name right off the top of my, you could bring her name up, Michelle, Swedish journalist, cannibalism. She's not alone because I think it's Richard Dawkins, right? Supposedly great mind has said that we need to get rid of the taboo of eating people. So that's not.
Dawkins has said that.
Yes. It was on Twitter. I did read his tweet.
It was on Twitter. It's real.
I read Dawkins' tweet about cannibalism.
And
Are you sure it wasn't tongue in cheek?
No, I'm pretty sure it was not tongue in cheek.
Tongue in cheek?
No, I'm pretty
sure.
It
could have been though. I mean, seriously.
Okay, so then you have that's what Swedish scientists suggest cannibalism to combat climate change. It was all over the news this week. Even Tucker Carlson talked about it. One Swedish scientist has raised the bar. This isn't a journalist, a scientist, is offering every person a tangible way to save the world. And because it's a progressive approach, everyone will love it, right? Up until now, we have been asked to make small behavioral changes to help save the planet.
So on and so forth.
She says that
I don't see any
you can't, I'm not sure which on September 3rd and 4th at the Gastro Summit on the Future of Food, and this was held in Stockholm. In this summit, the behavioral scientist and marketing strategist Magnus Sunderland presented his talk, Food for the Future, Worms, Grasshoppers, or Human Flesh.
No.
Soderlund stated that people must awaken to the idea of eating human flesh as a way of combating the effects of climate change. So to everyone trying to cut down on your carbon emissions by abstaining from beasts, blah, blah, blah. In his talk, Soderlund advocated for the breakdown of ancient taboos against desecrating a human corpse and eating our fellow humans' flesh. He even goes so far as to state that these taboos against cannibalism stem from a more conservative way of thinking. And here's a quote from him. When Sunderland was asked if he would try human flesh, he replied, "I feel somewhat hesitant, but do not appear overly conservative. I'd have to say I'd be open to at least tasting it."
Oh my gosh.
It's fascinating that a behavior psychologist would propose this.
So how did we get here, though? I mean...
Well, there's two things to that. Number one, we're pretty sure that quite a lot of tribes practiced cannibalism thousands of years ago anyway, because of the marks that we found on bones, things like that. And secondly, I don't understand the logic of how it helps save the planet.
So what Tucker Carlson was saying was that instead of the body having to decompose like in a coffin,
and you not have to grow as much meat, right?
And you don't have to grow as much meat. So what I always was taught is you don't eat something that died of natural causes.
No, you can actually
If we have a chicken out in the yard that just keels over and croaks, it gets a nice little funeral and it gets buried because it's just not safe.
So is Tucker Carlson for it or not for it?
Obviously he's against it. But seriously, I mean...
With a name like Tucker, you never know.
Yeah. It kind of blows my mind, and it feels like there's been this push because like Hollywood has been pushing cannibalism. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah. So Richard Dawkins, and this is from March 6, 2018, posted to his 2.7 million Twitter followers that lab-grown meat may be the cultural gateway to overcoming an aversion to cannibalism.
But is he for it though?
Yeah.
Or is he
just?
He says
he's commenting on the experiments with growing meat in petri dishes.
But he says, "I've been looking forward to this. What if human meat is grown? Could we overcome our taboo against cannibalism? An interesting test case for consequentialist morality versus yuck reaction absolutism."
Yeah, so someone's put it forward and he's saying, well, is it logical to do that?
You can switch me sides. Is it...
I mean, technically, it's not going to be anything if it's grown in a petri dish.
Exactly. I agree with you there. I don't...
But he says, could this be our step to overcoming our aversion to cannibalism? Could it be a step to doing that? And I find that disturbing to even comment on. So that was the story we were going to cover this week. Over in Sweden,
that's your nice commercial break.
Yeah, in Sweden, I don't know what's going on in Sweden. They want to start eating people now. That's going back to their Viking days all over again.
You know what? That's not fair. I don't think the Vikings didn't eat people.
No, but pretty brutal.
That's not the same as eating somebody.
Pretty uncivilized in all manners.
You might
of living.
gut them, but you're not going to eat them.
Well, hold on. I was brought up in a village that was a Viking settlement.
What?
The village where I was born was an old Viking settlement. I mean, that's what Yorkshire is. It's an old Viking settlement.
Rape, pillage, conquer.
Are they cannibals?
Don't know. We seem to have survived okay.
Okay, so here's what I want to do.
Random news.
Did you say how you just interrupted me?
Yeah, no, another thing. So tonight, I guess, the 60 Minutes Australia is airing a special on Meghan Markle. Have you heard of this?
What?
With Katie Hopkins in it. It's anti-Merkel. It's Katie Hopkins in it, and everybody was upset that they would interview Katie Hopkins about Meghan Markle. Have you heard it?
No one cares.
No one cares. See, here's the deal, and we've talked about this when we've had you on in the past. In the United States, the royals are a big deal.
Listen, on Yahoo News page every day, there are 6 stories about Meghan Markle every day. It's a big deal. People follow the royal family here.
Yeah, but it's got to be celeb, so that's all. You don't get 6 stories about Prince Charles, do you? You get 6 stories about some American actress.
That's a good point.
Well, and you also get, before her, you had William and Kate, and they're still in the news.
News now.
But Merkel is but the whole of the 60-minute special is kind of the fact that she's not British, and she's not.
She isn't.
Accepting, well, she's American now. I guess she's a British citizen now, but she's not in any way.
You mean she's not British?
Yeah,
not like she's not British.
She's a social justice warrior who, in my opinion, has decided to use her marriage to kind of destroy your royal, what, for better or for worse, your royal.
Are you saying she's going to be worse than Wallis Simpson?
Who's that?
Are you serious?
Yes, we're serious.
She was the American socialite who made the king abdicate.
Abdicate. Okay.
And he had to abdicate, and then they wedded. I think they lived in Monaco or somewhere like that for the rest of their lives.
Okay. Yeah. Now I know who you're talking about. I just didn't know her name.
I never learned that history.
But they changed the rules so he could marry, so he doesn't have to abdicate. She just doesn't like, from what I get, she just doesn't like it there. She doesn't like you people.
Let's save it on airfares.
She
and the carbon footprint.
Exactly. That's a good point.
And that's another thing, that while I have you here, what is the sentiment over there? Because this whole climate change thing has taken over our Democrat race for 2020. And there was a recent climate summit where billionaires from all over the world flew in to tell little people that they can't fly. And Prince Harry was questioned on his use of a private jet and said, I fly a lot and I do fly commercial, but when it's important for my family, I fly private. But basically that's just for me because I'm a prince, and y'all, you're not princes, see? Like, I'm a prince, so you're not. So I get to fly more, and I get the better stuff because I'm a prince. Do you not understand? And that's
just an elite mindset, though, not just a royal mindset.
Well, I'm not saying that it's a royal mindset. I'm just saying that that's what's going through. That's how he's trying to explain away his use of a private jet by telling us, what if we all use private jets to fly around the world, everywhere we went?
Elton John plants a tree at every flight that Harry goes on.
So you asked a question and then didn't leave room for the answer. What is the sentiment over there, by and large, of climate change?
It's exactly the same as over there.
Really?
It's the usual suspects screaming and shouting.
Okay.
And real people just get on with their lives.
Right.
And then, but what do they think about the celebrities? And what do you think about Prince Harry trotting around the world telling everybody to not eat meat and not go anywhere and walk barefoot around the world while he jet sets everywhere? He's in South Africa jet setting. That boy has been more. He says he offsets his carbon footprint every time he takes an airplane. There's absolutely no way he can offset. What is he doing to offset his carbon footprint by taking a jet? What do you think about this?
I'm sensing that this upsets you.
The hypocrisy of it, and the fact that he thinks that he doesn't tell anybody what he's doing to offset this carbon footprint from flying, around the world.
Because he can't tell people he's eating humans. Duh.
Elton John said he paid to offset it.
He paid.
He paid to offset it. That's
right.
what he
Well,
said.
that's like the Paris Climate Agreement, though, because apparently, instead of like recycling and doing things to save the planet, you can just throw money at saving the planet. Like literally, just throw dollars. Boom. Planet saved.
Is there a anti CO2 fund that you can just pay? I didn't know this.
Yes, paper money is the anti-carbon.
Okay, so I don't want to.
That really.
I don't want to keep you all day, but I would like, if you're willing, because I did put it in the.
I'm not singing.
It's fine. Although it would really be great for you to do like your own singing. Like we wouldn't have to sing.
Like a sea shanty.
Yeah. Like some Yorkshire song, but we'll do. Maybe we can convince you to do
that. That would be awesome.
I want to do a Q&A. So we're on a 30-second leg here. So those of you that are watching, if you have a question for Horatio, put it in the chat on either Facebook Live or YouTube. I don't have Periscope up right now, even though we're streaming there, so I can't see your comments. But if you guys have a question for Horatio, it does not have to be political. We can, I think it always goes to sports when we do open.
We're not talking about sport today.
Okay, we're not talking about sports today. So those sport
Especially
questions
cricket.
are outlawed, especially cricket questions. It's usually
While we're waiting for this, what are your thoughts on because Zimbabwe was a former British colony. What are your thoughts on the death of Robert Mugabe?
Brilliant. Fantastic.
Wow, he just does.
But
Thank
don't you think there is a hell because somebody like him has to go there?
No. Don't worry like that.
It doesn't work like that.
That's it.
I believe it works like that. Well, I don't know if you saw this, but our own ambassador to Zimbabwe had a very magnanimous tweet put out. I was kind of disgusted. I know Tucker Carlson was disgusted. I was disgusted before I couldn't believe that there were people praising this
Pretty much
man,
saying that he had an amazing legacy.
and he was a revolutionary. In a short explanation,
well, it certainly was. Whether you think it was good or bad is depends which side you're on, really. If you're a socialist and a communist and anti-colonialist, then he did exactly what he said he was going to do. Now, if you take a wider view of that, he absolutely ruined his country. So it wasn't that good, was it?
Well,
And
I can't.
people as well.
So if you replace one...
Inflation is 1,000,000%.
Right. So if you replace the Russian czars, right, with the Bolshevik Reds, they were revolutionaries too, but it doesn't mean that the country was better. It doesn't mean that those revolutionaries actually did anything good. And in fact...
No, I mean, if that's what he said, then technically he was correct.
Technically,
that's all. It's technically correct.
Technically correct.
Now, whether those were good or bad things,
there were some more flowery words in there. We mourn the loss, blah blah blah. And to the people that died, to the people that starved, to the people whose homes were destroyed, farms were destroyed, lives were destroyed. They're not better off. And so throwing off a British colonial power for a despot who compared himself to Hitler and called himself Hitler, proudly, how I don't understand in the world that we live in where we're trying to call Donald Trump a fascist and we're trying to call him a Hitler, and they're calling Boris Johnson a fascist. They're calling Nigel Farage a Nazi.
They just throw that around willy-nilly, though.
that is literally, I mean, literally from a communist document in the 30s. It's the MO of how to play your opponents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's to associate your opponents with the worst people of the day or in the recent past.
Right.
And it's literally from a communist propaganda document.
And they're doing it. They're succeeding at doing it.
But in the midst of that, to have any kind words whatsoever for a Robert Mugabe, who literally was a dictator, a tyrant, worth $1 billion when he died. It boggles my mind.
I think what I'd say is he's misjudged the mood.
Okay, so Shutters on YouTube wants to know, will we finally see Brexit on the 31st of October?
I would say not, but I wouldn't be surprised if it all went with a bang.
Okay, so Ian says, okay, one question. UK is retreating from the EU to go to put attention to Southeast Asia, right? Question mark.
Well, yes, and everywhere else.
Okay.
You see, well, the thing is that we can now, well, this is what I do, is I take all tariffs off all products coming into the country.
Okay.
And then people get the cheapest products and all the best products that they want for whatever price they want. If you want something really cheap, you can get it from developing nations. If you want something quality, you can go to the EU or the States and get quality, and you're going to pay for it. But what taking tariffs off, it gives everyone a choice, especially poor people who don't have the choice of buying expensive, good products. They just want some decent, cheap products.
Okay, gotcha. All right, Wolf Robinson says, what is your favorite dish to cook? You are a chef, right?
I think Michelle can tell him what my favorite dish is to make.
Skyline chili, like literally. I'm gonna say that's your favorite dish.
And
to make.
that's a recipe. I need to taste his version of skyline chili. I'm
it
sure
probably
it's
tastes better.
I'm sure it's magnificent.
And also Mexican baked wraps as well, which is chicken, mature brie, spinach, rolled up in deli wraps, and then spicy sauce on top of it.
I get these pictures, and I'm really glad that there's no smell with them, actually, because it's terrible. I usually am just responding with, I'll be right over. And then, yeah, can't really go. Let's see.
I like Bombay scrambled eggs as well. That's nice to make. Nice and easy. And it tastes really good.
Is that with the Canadian bacon?
I
call it Canadian bacon. It's not the same.
We don't have Canadian bacon. We have Danish bacon.
Okay, Danish bacon. It's not like bacon, like we know, like strips of bacon.
No, it's a different type. It's a different type.
Right. Okay. Do you think the Chartist movement is repeating itself in 2019 with the behavior of the House of Commons? Nom Nom wants to know.
Kind of. I think there are too many elements in it that are not making it just a rerun. You've got too many elements from the radical left and old communists to make it anything that's purely British.
Okay.
It's now not British politics anymore. It's just an amalgam of everything at the minute. You've got European politics, you've got American postmodern politics and things like that, which are just making things really difficult to read. And there are no precedents in any. People are saying, "Oh, it's going to be the Corn Laws all over again." That's what the leaders are saying, but you can't even compare it really to that because it's not the same.
Gotcha. Britt Baza wants to know, Michelle, question for Horatio. How would Horatio vote again if we were forced to vote again over the EU? Leave or remain?
Leave.
All right, Stuart the Brit says...
I suppose that was a rhetorical question.
I don't know. I guess I think that Barry's asking a real question.
Because I do believe that some who voted remain would vote leave
now. There are a few who say, look, we voted, you've got to get on with it.
Yeah.
In fact, I think, I wouldn't say most Remains, but I would say a good minority of Remainers are just get on with it now.
Okay, Stuart the Brit, Horatio, do you feel any change on Brexit commitment amongst the northern people?
No, not at all. Exactly the same. Just get on with it. Leave.
Was the North more leave than the South?
Well, there was only Scotland and London that voted to remain.
Okay. So and Northern Ireland voted to leave.
I think they did, although I'm not sure. You'd have to look that up. I think they did, but I'm not sure.
Dale Jones, ask Horatio if he feels there are too many immigrants/refugees in the UK and whether they should be deported.
Well, there are, and they aren't deporting them.
Okay.
But I mean, it's not as simple as that. The thing is, your open door immigration. You can have open door immigration, or you can have a social security system. You can't have both because you can't afford both.
Right.
And you can have illegal immigration, which is good, and it's only good if it's illegal because they aren't costing anything, and they don't want to get into trouble. So they don't cost the taxpayer anything. Illegal immigration only becomes bad when they become legal, and then they're a cost to society. Then,
Gotcha.
When you guys have got it with California and things like that, Mexican immigrants, they're only good for the economy when they're illegal because they aren't on anyone's books.
Well, but technically here, if you're an illegal immigrant, you can get housing, you can get medical
very
care.
strange.
Your children can have a free education.
Nope. We keep them in sheds. So.
Okay, Britt Baza again. Does Horatio think the UK should become a tax haven off of Europe?
Yes.
Explain that.
Well, a tax haven is where you can keep your money and they don't tax you. Never going to happen, but...
Okay. Gotcha. Here, I'm still trying to comb through these questions here. Maia wants to know, Horatio, if you could travel to any country in the world, what country would it be?
Antarctica.
Oh, come on.
That's the whole continent.
Wow.
I want to go to Antarctica.
Oh, that's
because of Crean, Tom
Yes.
Crean.
Do you think you have the
Well, not
mustard?
because of him, but because of all the exploration.
Do you think you have the muster to handle it?
Probably not. I'd probably curl up in a ball and cry.
Okay, Kelly PB Fam says, what are your thoughts of your country being able to have a better self-protection versus the U.S. Second Amendment?
What's the Second Amendment?
Our gun laws, that we can right to bear arms.
No, we're doing all right without it, to be honest. We've got different histories. It wouldn't work here the same way as it. Well, it doesn't exactly work over there, but you've come from a different beginning than we did, so it just doesn't work.
Well, everybody was able to own a sword at one point. On God.
Well, you can own a gun. I mean, I used to go shooting, and you've got to get a license for it, but people just don't, because it's not how we are.
Do you think that there would be any curb in violence, or do you think that it would just, the criminals would have all the guns?
Well, the criminals got all the guns now anyway. I think it just makes stupid people get guns and shoot other stupid people.
But what about the knife crime? I mean, you have to ban butcher knives now at this point.
Yeah, but it's not. It's only an issue in isolated areas. It's not. I mean, it's only because it's in the news that people think, oh, it's out of control and things like that. Yes, it is out of control, but only in isolated areas.
Gotcha. Where they're more prone to. Well, and it's kind of like the same thing here. Guns are really only a problem where there are gangs.
And that's the thing here. In the inner cities, guns are pretty much just a problem in the inner cities. If you take out gang violence, gun violence is not an issue. I mean, texting and driving is an issue.
Very true.
So we should.
Which it's outlawed in the UK. I mean, you guys aren't even allowed to use your cellular devices while driving, right?
One lady got fined for eating an apple while driving.
What? You're not allowed to do anything while driving, but driving.
You've got to drive.
Wait, whoa. Like,
you're deemed not to be in control of the motor vehicle.
You can't. You guys don't go through the drive-through and pick up a cheeseburger and eat as you drive?
But you stopped, aren't you, if you're in the drive-through?
No, but then you keep driving. Like you got your food, you got your sandwich, you're going down the road. I'm looking at an ice cream cone while I'm driving a stick shift.
No, for goodness sake, bit decorum. You don't eat on the move.
Oh, okay. So this is more of a British thing. This is a British thing, though, not a safety issue.
You pack up and eat.
Okay, you pack up and eat.
We don't here. We don't.
We don't.
Drive all the time.
No.
What about?
I don't even like people who eat while they're walking on the street. People who eat pasties while walking, they should be jailed.
Wait, no.
But if you go to a fair or something, like, it's all just walk and eat.
That's a fair, though.
It's a fair. It's a bit different than walking down your local high street while eating a pasty.
Now, you said a pasty. You mean a pastry, a pasty, whatever. You just mean like what I would call is like a hot pocket.
It's like a
pot
really
pie
encased
in a
pastry with meat in it.
Yeah,
okay.
I want to go to the UK because I feel like that's really good food. What about drinking things? Do you guys drink and you like water, coffee while you drive?
I drink tons of water. If I'm driving long distances, I always take a bottle of water with me.
But you're allowed to drink and drive, like, you know what I mean, like.
Yeah, but I could if I caught a copper on a bad day. he could technically put some points on my license for not being in control of.
You're
motor.
kidding.
If you drank from
it's
a...
unlikely. It's unlikely. It's a waste of his time and a waste of my time.
Right.
But it has.
Every single car going to work in the morning has a cup of coffee. Pretty much.
Oh man, I'll get behind people and this lady's putting like mascara on while she's at the stoplight and like blush on while she's driving. I mean, this is an everyday occurrence, I think.
Very
Yeah,
interesting.
my chief, he's driving. Actually, driving is third or fourth on his list of things to do.
So, but he's not getting pulled over for this?
No.
Okay. All right, let's see. Ian wants to know, is the UK supporting Trump in buying Greenland? I think that's tongue-in-cheek.
Well, everyone thinks this is a ludicrous thing to do, but it's how America's grown from the beginning. You had the Louisiana Purchase. You bought California. You bought a load of land off us in the 1800s.
Yeah.
You bought Canada. Why would you not buy Greenland if you want the resources? And from a military point of view, it's quite a good base.
There
Okay.
you go.
All right. Very
Intelligent
good.
response.
Britt Baza says eating in public in the UK is not cricket. It's very low etiquette. What is that? Not cricket. Like.
If something's not cricket, it's not right. You shouldn't be doing it.
Not cricket. Okay, we've never heard that one before.
You guys have more manners than we do here. We're a bit barbaric compared.
We are. What was the phrase you gave to me the other day that I wasn't familiar with? I'm learning all sorts of new phrases that they use. Shoot.
Losing your bottle.
Losing your bottle. What in the world? I mean, tell them what it means again.
Well, I can't really tell them what it means, can I? It's Cockney rhyming slang, bottle and glass.
Well, okay, yes, but you can tell them
So
what
you-
it's perceived to lose your muster, to lose your nerve.
Yeah. To lose your
Chicken
nerve at
out.
the last minute. Before you go through with something, you lose your nerve.
Gotcha. Lose your bottle. Okay. All right, let's see. Liebusters wants to know, Horatio, regarding Brexit, City of London, Bank of England, / have you heard of the Rememberer Rancer who sits in the House of Commons? Literally, they put
What?
Rememberer Answer. Like one word. Remember Answer. Remember Answer.
Who sits in the House of Commons?
Regarding...
Not a clue.
Not
Okay.
a clue. Moving on.
There goes our
I
thing
got it.
again. All right. Jim West says terrible manners to walk and eat. Jim's from the UK as well. We're all getting schooled here.
Yeah. We should have laws like Saudi Arabia when it comes to that. If you're caught eating a pasty, you should have a finger cut off.
Oh my gosh! Wow, that's a bit extreme. Okay.
Times may change, but standards must remain.
Lancer 737 Horatio, is there any talks about removing America forces from the EU/UK since they talk about America being a threat to them?
Well, both the UK and America have pulled troops out of places like Germany and Poland, so they're not in there. I mean, I think we pulled about 50,000 troops out of Germany and Poland a few years ago. I mean, part of the thing, I worked on a few things where we were getting ready for that, making more homes for soldiers coming back and things like that. Mm-hmm. So they are pulling out, but at the end of the day, Germany and France will whine all they want about America, but when it comes to it, they'll come running in your direction, won't they?
Right. Very true. All right. Worth a look says, ask Horatio, in an ideal world, who would he want to be prime minister and why?
Don't know.
Come on, it's so easy.
That was handed to you.
I don't want to say Nigel, it's too easy.
It's
Too easy.
It's too easy. But it's in an ideal world.
I think at the minute, Boris is probably the best person that there is because he's upsetting all the right people.
Okay.
And I think Nigel should be the US envoy.
Gotcha.
Or the ambassador.
Okay, gotcha. So
I think if they're going to a pact, I think Boris, instead of offering, I don't think he'd dare offer him to be deputy prime minister. I think he wants to keep him at arm's length. So I think he should offer him ambassador to the US.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that would be absolutely perfect. All right, a few more questions here. And Bill Carson says the remember answer sits behind the speaker and is there to represent the city of London, I think.
Don't know.
Okay, that's interesting.
It's something I don't know about.
All right. Jim West, does Horatio like the EFTA/Norway/Swiss model of trade without the politics?
Well, it's better than the deal we've got now, but I wouldn't have that at all. We just leave and have a free trade agreement. In fact, I wouldn't even have a free trade agreement because free trade isn't free trade. All the free trade agreements are chosen companies get certain tariffs knocked off. That's what free trade agreements are. It's giving preferential treatment to big companies and big conglomerates so that they can get past the tariffs. So I wouldn't. You're not going to get around it these days, but I wouldn't have a free trade agreement. I would just drop all tariff barriers.
So
you can't drop them immediately because that'd affect all our producers and service providers. Sure. So I'd take them down slowly.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, and I think that's when you're talking about making sense. You don't see any of that on the BBC. Like, okay, this is what we're gonna do, and this is how we're gonna do it, and we're gonna wean ourselves down. It's gonna be slow, and it'll be easy, and everybody will be fine.
Yeah, I mean, they keep saying, "Oh, you said it'd be easy." Well, the premise is easy, but the details aren't easy.
Right. So taking it a little at a time. What's wrong with that? Exactly.
All right.
Hey, Dale Jones wants to know if you could be arrested if you were to misgender someone in person or online.
No, we're not Canada.
All right. Stuart the Brit says, Horatio, have you ever tried to make an American not wear their sunglasses while talking to you?
Eye to eye. Americans tend to wear their sunglasses a lot.
I don't think you'd ever make somebody. I don't even think you would ask somebody.
I heard that.
Let him ask.
I have seen, and in fact, I actually saw a photograph of someone else doing it on Twitter. I've seen an American wearing a baseball cap backwards and shielding their eyes from the sun. I have seen that.
Oh, yeah, that happens all the time around here.
I try to be polite when I'm talking to somebody if I have my sunglasses on to take them off. I don't know. I just do it.
I heard that you guys, because you have so many cameras, that you try to take your sunglasses off when you're, all the time. And not...
No, nobody's worried about cameras. There shouldn't be as many as they are, but no one's worried about them. I mean, there are now facial recognitions coming in, but I mean, it would have been worse because New Labour wanted to bring that in early 2000s, and
nice.
It just got to a position they had to drop it.
All right, so I think we're going to wrap it up before any more questions pop up, even though we're on a 30-second lag here.
There are questions for you, just going to go all day. We could just be here all day. Everybody is so happy that you're here because it's a very happy, exciting day. This is an interactive show, and everybody is wanting to pick your brain. So this has been very exciting.
Let me answer one adequately.
I think you've done a very good job.
You have done a very good job.
You've explained it better than anybody else could, so it's been so confusing. And
I'm still confused, and that's not because you didn't do a good job. It's just the whole situation. There is no concrete anything at this point.
Exactly.
Yeah, all the rules are out. All the rules are out the window now.
Right.
You generally don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow when they put a new bill forward.
Right.
But it just seems like here in the United States, maybe I'm wrong. You can correct me, Leah. When we pass a law or we pass something, it just happens. I mean, I'm trying to think of an instance where it doesn't.
Oh.
And you have so many,
people were pretty much against Obamacare, but it went through.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
But it went through.
It did.
Like you had to go through, it went through.
Yeah.
People hated it.
I guess maybe the best I can think of is like the Supreme Court's not supposed to make law. Okay, just because they set a precedent doesn't mean that it's supposed to make law, and so that's the only thing I can think of that is more of a wishy-washy thing, But that's a state's, it's our republic versus the UK. So I don't know. Your politics are definitely very interesting, and it's been fun to learn. I feel like I'm learning a second language.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, what could happen over the Ben bill is if eventually they do get an election passed, to have an election, then the next government in, assuming that it's the Conservatives, they can repeal that law. So if he gets a majority and he's already agreed that he has to follow the law, then if he wins an election, he can come back and he can repeal that law. So we can start again and we're going.
But he has to know the only way he'll get a majority is with a pact with the Brexit party, right?
Well, you don't know. They are very tribal, and he wants to stay he wants to keep it separate from Farage as much as he can. But the situation means that he probably won't be able to do that.
Are there enough? Because I don't think that there are enough Brexit Tories.
I think after an election there will be.
Okay.
They don't have a choice. Well, that's what Nigel said. If the Tory in the seat is going to be a Remainer, then he's going to stand someone against them. But if they're a Leaver, like someone like John Redwood, then they're obviously not going to put anyone up against him.
Gotcha. Okay, one last question because I find this hilarious. Lancer says, Horatio, with knight lance jousting coming back as a sport in America and Australia, could you see it coming back in the UK?
Well, we do have it, but only at sort of like festivals and things like that.
Yeah,
there's not that many people do it.
Gotcha. All right, you guys. Horatio, stick with us while we say goodbye. For those of you, I'm sure Patriot Gallery will cut this up. Maybe not in sections like she normally does, but at least cut off our flub in the beginning. She does a good job of that, so we can get it concise. So you can look forward to having a complete show. So thank you, Horatio, for joining us today. It's been absolutely a ball and a blast.
Very fun, yeah.
It has been really fun. So much. It's been a long time since you've done a really long show with us, so I appreciate you taking out time on your Sunday. You know, you only get 2 special days a week off. So thank you for spending a good part of that with us. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you to our moderators. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to both of our channels, Matt's Faith 3 and Resistance Chicks. Ring the bell so you get notifications. Find us on Facebook and Twitter, resistancechicks.com. Send us your letters, P.O. Box 107, Milford, Ohio 45150. And remember, it's not just a conspiracy theory if it's actually the truth.
Ian says, very quality guest.
Of course, very quality guest. You can't get...
He's got low standards.
Oh my... The handsome face, drool-worthy accent, knowledge... It doesn't get any better than Horatio McSherry.
Was it believable? Did you believe everything I told you?
And it was very believable. He sold you all a bill of goods. All right, you guys. Good night and God bless. And we will see you back on Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our weekly roundup. Bye.
Let's go.